Facebook. Welcome to the Honest Living Room. I'm Sarah, and we are here today with three mommy doctors. We're so excited to be talking to them to get some honest advice on getting our kids ready to go back to school. So I'm a mom of two children, school-aged, a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old daughter. And I'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves, and then we can get started.
I am Dr. Saren, and I have 3 rugrats. 3 boys, ages 9, 7, and 5. And that's pretty much my toughest job.
I'm Dr. Mizuho, and I have 2 kids also, 8 and 5, and back to school is one of my favorite times of year.
And I'm Dr. Veronica. I have 2 boys, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I have one more on the way who's imminently going to be here in about 2 weeks.
Getting ready to go back to school.
Yeah. I'm like, getting ready to go to school.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. So this is, I feel like for me, and I assume a lot of parents out there, transitions are always tough. Whether it's transitions throughout the day or transitions during the year. So I know for my kids, one of the biggest transitions when it comes time to get ready to go back to school is getting back into healthy sleep habits. So we're not always the best in the summer. I maybe let them stay up a little bit too late. They maybe sleep in a little bit too early in the morning. So do you guys have some tips on getting kids back into a smooth, healthy sleep routine as they get ready to go back to school?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is not trying to rush it and preparing in advance. So 2 weeks before school starts, start to get back into that rhythm of things. Kids are used to going to bed late, getting up early, going to bed late, waking up late. And so I think 2 weeks is a good starting point in terms of let's start getting this rhythm back in motion. Most school-age kids, on average, need about 10 hours sleep. So for whatever your schedule is going to be for the kids in terms of getting out the door, getting breakfast, getting dressed, start thinking 10 hours backwards from that in terms of like my goal target time to get into bed.
You mean my daughter who takes 45 minutes and then to get ready because she changes her outfit 10 times? Okay, I'll work backwards from there, yes.
And we're screwed because they're what, 8 or 9?
Mine's 4. Yeah, anyway.
I think one of the other tips, especially for older kids, I mean, we should always not have TVs and cell phones and iPhones and iPads in the room anyway, but particularly when we're trying to create healthy sleep hygiene is what we call it, and sleep habits, definitely keeping all electronics out of the room to try and decrease that additional stimuli and temptation to get on their phone, I think is really helpful and important. So just being consistent.
Yeah. And what about with the, the time change doesn't occur till when? November? I mean, it's really late. So any tips for when it's still light out and they want to be outside playing, trying to create a conducive environment for falling asleep?
Yeah, well, it's hard, to try to get a child to go to sleep when it's light outside. And so a lot of things that help with the sleep cycle, etc., is trying to put blackout shades, trying to make the room as dark as possible, quiet, even though summertime is very loud.
Just creating that soothing environment, like if it's a bath, if it's like reading in bed, if it's just putting on the pajamas, that whole creating that cycle of we're preparing ourselves mentally for sleep. Yes, the sun is out, they're gonna fight you, but like we're preparing for sleep.
Turn that white noise on so they can't hear the kids down the street that are still playing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and the key is just to do it in advance, not the night before school, like most of us end up
Give
doing.
yourself a couple of weeks. Give yourself a couple weeks.
Give
the
yourself
kids a couple
fighting
weeks.
chance.
Exactly. So there's not actual fighting. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
That's great. So another kind of building on this, getting back into good routines. I know for me, in the summer, we maybe get into this sort of like, we're going to have pancakes for breakfast every morning routine. Do you guys have, tips on kind of healthy breakfast, healthy ways to get the day started, and then also healthy food for school, and tips for making sure that your kids are getting, enough nutrition throughout the day?
I think pre-planning is really the key, and that's hard, right? We're all busy parents running around. I think one fun way is including your kids in the selection of their snacks, obviously with because they are going to be much more excited about putting that in their lunch boxes. So as long as they're healthy choices, you give them a couple of options or they get to pick a couple of choices, I think that's great. And then kind of pre-planning the week, looking to see which days you're going to be packing lunch. If you elect to buy lunch, making sure that it's not the hamburger day or pizza day, picking at least better choices. So I think that's important.
Like Sarah, what do your boys like to eat for school?
That's you're saying. I'm gonna that.
Edamame, string cheese.
Good job. She does the
Yeah.
whole bento box.
She does.
Oh, yeah, so they can see visually, it's really appealing.
Yeah.
They can
Yes.
see the different food options they have.
And
That's
they are
easier.
not allowed to come home from school unless everything is finished.
You don't know where.
I know, right?
It's not ending when I get in my car.
Yeah, there are days where my son comes home and we open up his lunchbox and there's the whole apple, not even a single bite, and I'm, can't you just at least one bite, please?
Yeah.
But okay, cool. So another thing you kind of mentioned, you know, getting to and from school. We want to make sure we're being safe with our children, and obviously a lot of parents have they drive their kids to and from school, but there are also kids that take the bus. There are kids that are lucky enough to walk to school or ride their bike. Do you have some tips on making sure that we're safe as we get them to and from school?
Yeah, I think there's, you know, everybody chooses a different mode depending on, you know, where you live and what's feasible for work and school. The main thing is if you're traveling by car, make sure that the kids are in the appropriate size car seat or booster seat, that the seatbelts fit appropriately, that everybody's wearing a seatbelt. If you're carpooling, if you're, you know, we all trade off and help each other out, making sure that those other moms in those cars, everybody's equipped with a seatbelt and the right car seat, I think is really important, because you're sure of it in your own car, but checking with everybody else that everybody else does too is important.
And then it's age appropriate, right? Like most of our school age kids should be in a booster until they're about 57 inches. So about usually 8 or 9 years old, depending on how tall your kids are. And then making sure that lap belt fits properly so that it goes across the shoulder, not high up on the neck. And the lap portion comes right across the upper thighs, not the belly. So that's really the key.
Is there an age when they no longer have to do the 5-point harness, or is that a height weight thing as well?
It's a height weight thing. It's on our car seat blog, actually, if you
Okay.
if your viewers want to go
Link above.
link above, so they can refer to that as well. We break it down by age, but it's age and weight based.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that is something that is constantly changing, and they are updating that, so it's good to be abreast of the newest regulations. And that is, you know, a topic that is near and dear to our hearts. By being emergency physicians, seeing the, you know, the aftermath of people that don't use car seats properly, or, you know, so it's very important.
We take it for granted, we just assume in this day and age everybody wears a seatbelt, but we see people all the time and kids who aren't seatbelted in, and well-meaning parents, and
Yeah.
it's important for us to reiterate that point. But if you're not, you know, in a car, then it's also kids who are walking to school. A lot of kids walk to school, picking a buddy, finding someone to walk with, but making sure that you've mapped it out. You know exactly what the route is, that they're going at, you know, corners where there's crossing guards that are licensed and trained, and so they're using that, and they know where to cross safely and not taking shortcuts.
And then if they're wearing helmets, that is huge. As ER doctors, we see so many head injuries. So the kids that are riding scooters and skateboards and bicycles, they must wear a helmet. Like there's just, I always tell patients, you know, we can fix your arms, we can fix your legs, but we can't do a ton if you injure your head.
Well, and there are actually so many cool helmets out there.
There
with, like, cool
are, yeah,
graphics, and they
nowadays
can put
it's
stickers
super
on
fun.
them.
Yeah,
and they can
yeah,
pretend
yeah,
they're, you
yeah.
know, professional athletes out there. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
No, there's
So,
there's ways to make it fun.
yeah, the kids in my neighborhood know. I'm like, they see me and they're like, oh, get that helmet back on. Yeah.
Great. Well, actually, speaking of doctor's orders, and you guys are the perfect experts to talk about this, but one of the things that, you know, when we go back to school, we always have to go through that process of updating, you know, the medical records, making sure that everything is up to date. I swear my wrist almost falls off every year when I have to fill out that card.
Yeah.
But it is a good reminder to make sure that everything is up to date, that they're, you know, that not only the records are up to date, but the emergency contacts and things along those lines. So do you have, you know, tips for families out there on how frequently they should be updating these records, who should have them, you know, things along those lines?
So yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that you are on the same page with your school, the school's nurse, the teacher, in terms of those emergency cards, making sure they're updated. Particularly so if your kids have any medical conditions or taking any medicines at school. One thing that we talk about is patients with allergies, you know, as in, you know,
My daughter's one, yeah.
and it's gonna be super scary because
Yeah.
you can't be with them every second, and they're gonna be eating at school. And so if there's a particular food allergy, that they know what it is, that if you have an EpiPen on file, which is the epinephrine pen for severe allergic response, that it's not expired, and that
Yes. Yeah, and that's a good reminder because I know for me, I give them the epi at the beginning of the year with the doctor's note, but then making sure that by the end of the year it hasn't expired.
That's right, yeah. And then also, asthma is another really big one.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that there's an allergy action plan as well as an asthma action plan, that you've discussed that with whoever is going to be providing the medication at the school.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is in agreement with their pediatrician as well, so that's huge. So yeah, I think expiration of medications is important, and just really establishing that clear communication line and what to do when there's a problem. Diabetes is another one, so if your child needs insulin, who's going to be giving it, when is it going to be given, when is the insulin expiring, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's a team approach. You definitely want to have your teachers aware because they're the ones that usually observe, excuse me, the
Right.
kids, in the school.
Well, and we found nowadays too that parents in talking to one another, that you learn, oh, so-and-so in the class has a nut allergy. So, just being aware of what you're sending your own kids to school with and not, jeopardizing somebody else's health as
And
well.
a lot of schools I think now, for my own kids, I actually filled out all that paperwork this morning for one of my kids is going to be starting preschool, and I was the same, like, but I'm writing out the insurance plan and the doctor's phone number, and I had to tell myself mentally, this is really important because they're going to be the ones, I'm not going to be there, so they need to have a clear understanding of who to call, what to do when this happens. But yeah, it's all about communication in terms of everybody just being on the same page and being prepared so that in the event, should something happen, everyone knows what to do.
Yeah. Actually, to that end, I'm curious what your opinions are in terms of sending kids to school with a cell phone. At what age do you think that that's, an appropriate to manage that?
There's really no rules on it. I think the American Academy of Pediatrics and other organizations recommend typically that the child's old enough to handle the cell phone, meaning like they're not going to break it, it's not going to get damaged, and that they're mature enough to know how to use it appropriately. And so I think the typical, it's going to vary for every family, depending on your child as well, how mature they are. But the numbers that I've seen is typically middle school and above seems to be appropriate.
Okay.
But again, setting sort of regulation and restrictions on the expectations of how it should be used, when it should be used, etc.
Yeah, emergency only.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. But in this age where all the kids are going to want one, it's important to sort of establish rules and proper use of it.
Okay, cool. So when I think of my kids in school settings, I cringe a little bit because I feel like every year I come down with more, illnesses, the cold, the flu than they even do, and it's like a whole new round of germs that we're exposed to each school year. So do you guys have some tips on staying germ-free, if that's possible, or at least,
Yeah, one thing
good
I always
hygiene?
tell parents, because it's so frustrating, every, school year we get sick again. I think teaching your kids just good hand washing and hand hygiene. I think if you can use a little hand sanitizer, you can slip that into their backpack if you think that they're old enough to use it. Yeah.
This is actually the perfect size.
We love that one.
Yeah.
It's hand sanitizer.
It smells great, but it's nice and compact and it's easy to use. So having something on hand for them when they can't get to a sink is really good.
Ideally washing their hands and, coughing into their
The elbow cough,
yeah. But, a lot of these, I tell parents, our job is to go to work and their job is to get sick and sort of be exposed to these viruses. And so it unfortunately comes with the territory, but certainly, and builds up their immune system. So that's the positive side of it. But yeah, teaching them good hand hygiene, I think, is the key.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because my husband and I had this conversation about our 2.5-year-old. He's ready. Like he puts on a backpack and says, I want to go to school, and he's not even 3 yet. And so I feel like he wants to go. He's very articulate and he's talking. But in the back of my head, I'm like, that means he's going to bring home germs. He's sick.
And we're all
going to get sick. And are we ready for that? We literally had this conversation last week.
I swear the kids, they get sick, but they're still sort of jumping around, and they still kind of want to play. And I'm like, guys, I need to go to sleep for 3 days.
Mama's
Yeah.
But there's a lot of it is viral. There's bacterial things that you worry about. But again, it's all coming down to practicing good hygiene for kids. And then preemptive measures. As a parent, if your child is sick or has a fever over 100.4, then keep them home. Keep them home for 24 hours while they're fever-free. Don't send them back to school and you're like, oh, maybe they look a little bit better. It's a good caution so that they actually recover. Nobody else at school gets sick.
And it's a courtesy to all the other parents.
Yeah,
Keep
exactly.
your kids home. make sure they still stay well hydrated, give them lots of fluids, and let them rest at home before you're sending them back. So
No rush.
And especially with the little ones, I always have to remind that you don't touch other people's faces.
Yeah,
you don't
that's a big
touch their
one.
Like, you can lick your friends.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
Don't share hair.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I mean, especially before eating and touching, and
Right.
keep your hands to yourself.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
touching them.
Yeah.
Well, and the hand washing, don't they teach them you're supposed to sing, like, row, row, row your boat, or
It's
do you have a good
ABC,
song?
ABC, so I cut him off the other day. He's like, no, I'm not.
I gotta get to Z.
And
Yeah.
then I realized, I'm like, he has to sing to the entirety of it, and he's not finished. And he's washing his hands. I'm like, wrap it up.
You know, it's funny, and mine actually, now they love to wash their hands because we started getting the lavender, the Honest Lavender hand soap, and they love the smell of it. So my daughter's
The water's running. We're gonna
like,
drown.
yeah, exactly. No, turn off the water, scrub your hands, yeah, turn it back on. No, but it's definitely, we do all sort of cringe thinking about those germs, but, you know, we'll get through it. We'll
Take your vitamins, that's huge.
Yeah.
I think, especially if you feel like you're getting sick or the kids are starting to get sick, you can talk to your pediatrician about supplementing with vitamins too. But boosting your immune system, eating good, fruits and vegetables, taking in your vitamin C.
Sleep.
And
All
sleep.
these things
All these
sort of.
things
Yes,
fit
they
into
all-
it.
So one other thing, and I think that, you know, it's not something we all want to think about, but there are times when there may be an emergency, and we want to make sure that we have sort of a plan in place, and also just, even if it's not an actual emergency, but just, you know, cuts and scrapes and bumps and bruises, do you guys have tips for what parents should have on hand, you know, a plan in place, at home, in the car, you know, all of these things?
Yeah, we always say, you know, plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah.
And that's true even in the home. I think it's super important to have a disaster plan, an emergency plan, and an understanding and a communication with your kids of who's allowed to pick you up if mom and dad can't pick you up. And that is clearly communicated with the school as well. And then if you are in an emergency and cell phones aren't working, I think having a contact card in their backpack or lunchbox is also very useful with phone numbers written down.
That's a great
And
idea.
you know, your child knows where to access that.
Do you have one in
Yes.
there, the kind of information that
Yeah,
we
so
should
we
have?
actually have one in this kit. It's just, you know, something simple. It doesn't have to be, you know, something small, but something written down. Because if if you know, if they don't have a cell phone or if they don't know the numbers, then this can be pulled out the same way that you need to tape it to the inside or put it on something. But to have the people who can pick them up, physician information, phone numbers, a meeting place.
Right.
Because I think
huge.
now it's like, where are we all going to meet? What's going to be if we can't get a hold of each other, where are we going to know that we're going to be able to recontact?
No, and I think it's peace of mind as
It's
well.
peace of
That, you know,
mind.
your kids aren't
Yeah.
with you all day, but at
Right.
least if something were to happen, they've got that in their backpack, or they have, you know, they know the plan and they know who, you know, would be picking them up if
Right.
they can't get to them.
I think it's all preparation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, back to school is the perfect time reminder to, you know,
Be prepared.
discuss this and,
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you coming here. Thanks for coming to our
Thank you.
our honest
Thank you for
living room.
having us.
Yeah,
It's beautiful here.
absolutely. And all these tips and more are available on our blog today and at the Honestly blog online. And also visit 3 Mommies with the link above and for more tips. And thank you guys so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.